We can't even begin to count the number of people who look up to Jordan Peterson for guidance regarding everyday situations and dilemmas, which involves deeply looking into his opinions. But it doesn't help that he's super shy to open up about what he personally believes in, and we know that it's a sign of a great philosophical mind. Today, we'll try to figure out what he thinks about religion and free will. First off, does he believe in God? Believe us. The man has been asked this question tons of times, and every single time he likes to reply by saying that he doesn't like the question. When placed on the spot, he recognizes that he is occupied with religious topics, and millions of people have seen his interesting take on biblical stories in his famous YouTube series, where he mainly focuses on Genesis. But when we talk about God's existence, Peterson is reluctant to declare his position. Why is that so? Even he doesn't know exactly where his hesitation comes from, and he behaves as though God exists. But in the end, he's scared of the fact that maybe he actually does. Some believe that he is definitely being deceptive on purpose. He's reluctant to come out with an absolute confession of his religious belief, at least when we talk about his public image. People like to describe his faith as something you would experience outside the parking lot, something very casual and right on the verge of solidifying into something more concrete. It's as if he is almost there, but not quite. If you were to notice it, people are frustrated about the conclusion that they should come to about his belief, because everybody faces the ultimate dilemma. Is acting as if God exists enough to be considered a believing Christian? Some believe that he's close, but not nearly close enough. It's important to understand that unless the man puts us out of our curiosity, we can't really put him down as a believer. So we're back to square one. Coming up, the question is the problem. Jordan likes to assert the fact that the question about his belief in God is pretty tough, not because he lacks the ability to answer it, but simply because it looks at things in a very black and white way. To him, it seems as though God's existence is a misunderstood concept, simply because he's not a physical form that exists in this world or even outside of it. Rather, he's to be seen within the things that exist among us. When we look around us, everything has been created by something else. Nothing comes from nothing, which differentiates any other entity from God, who was never created. God simply created everything all by itself, which is what gives it significance. So, asking whether God exists isn't the right question to ask, especially from Peterson, who chooses his words as wisely as he possibly can. It might seem like he is dodging the question at hand, but in reality, he is only trying to answer it to the best of his ability, which brings us down to his point. If there's no way to know whether something is true or not, it's the gut feeling that he goes with. It's purely instinctual, and it's not as simple as him believing in Christianity and following all of the rituals and obligations that come along with it. It simply means that he has a feeling that God may be around him, in which case, he wouldn't want to denounce the creator of all beings. Moving on, he has difficulty understanding his own belief. Professor Peterson was part of a podcast conversation with Jonathan Peugeot, where he stated that what people have in the figure of Jesus is an actual individual who lived in real life, in addition to being a myth. In many ways, he feels that Christ is the combination of those two things. He wasn't trying to bash anyone with his thought process. The difficulty was just that he probably believed it too, but he was surprised by it and didn't know how to comprehend his own belief. He felt that the reality of Christ was too horrible a reality to really believe, and he said it while he was on the verge of crying. His point was that if you actually were to sit and realize the events of what happened, he wasn't sure what would happen to the true believers. He went on, talking about how there's no telling what would transpire if you pretended God existed. It may not be the right thing to say to the people who call themselves believers, but he simply felt that they aren't sufficiently transformed for him to think that they believe in God, or that they believe the tale they're giving to him. In other words, the way we live doesn't seem like a testament enough to the truth. Up next, a person's behavior should be telling. According to the professor, you can't just say that you believe in God and then walk away play like there is no weight to those words. To him, it is a serious commitment to an entity that is present and all-knowing, and declaring belief isn't as easy as it sounds. What's more is that he mentioned how people would undoubtedly say things about the Catholic Church, taking it as an example. He talked about how people would talk, at least, about how it's portrayed, coupled with all the corruption existing within it. In the end, what people see is what they will comment on, and considering everything that is very apparently wrong within people who practice Christianity makes everybody question the faith. He talked about how people would ask you, if you believe in Jesus being the Son of God, why do you still continue to do all these things that you shouldn't be doing? So, in the end, he considered the church guilty of cleaning up the messes that people make. But he also talked about the flaws within the people and how it leads to a skewed image of a religion. That, in itself, has nothing wrong with it. His justification for not having a direct answer for his belief is definitely worth admiring. Moving on, does he believe in free will? It's true that a lot of religious people do not think that humans have free will. Instead, many like to believe that our actions have already been written and predefined by God. Since we still have no confirmed idea about Jordan's belief in religion, you might be curious about what he thinks when it comes to free will. And he has been pretty thorough about this question. What he proposes is a concept of bounded free will, and it may seem like the difference between the two doesn't matter, but you've got to stick through this. It's a bit deeper than that. He explains that we aren't omnipresent, which means that we aren't entirely powerful. What that means is that none of us has all the strength in the world, or all the knowledge in the world, which leaves us all in a limited capacity. We're all born with our own unique set of mental abilities, and one of us may be good at something that another of us is bad at, but in the end, our choices depend on what we know and don't know. Based on that, it isn't really considered free will, because you can't just do whatever you want. You'll find plenty of limitations here and there, and these limitations will shape, mold, and even change the direction of our choices in many different matters. So we'll be driven by our circumstances rather than by our own free will. Not just that, but Peterson stressed how our past choices eventually impact our future choices as well. So it comes full circle. Now, moving on to his ideas regarding social constructivism. Let's look at how it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. One of the reasons Jordan Peterson has grown into such a sensation is that many of his critics are perplexed, and on several occasions he has emerged from discussions looking like the person who brought forward an atrociously big point to a table that wasn't ready for it. This is especially evident in his different talks on the social constructivist theory, some of which have a shooting fish in a barrel quality to them. This is largely due to the fact that many individuals, including academics and activists, are puzzled about what it means to state something is socially constructed and what its political consequences are. For the longest time, people belonging to his profession have given the notion that if a feature or trait, such as ethnicity or gender, is socially built, it could be easily modified. This concept is what has established in many people's minds a strong link between being committed to social justice and believing that everything is socially built, which is what a lot of people think is the ultimate truth. This has resulted in significant bias in the human sciences, as academics support the constructivist theory, not because it is supported by convincing evidence, but due to their desire to accept it for political reasons. And that is what Peterson has been trying to break, because he feels that many of the socially constructed notions within society have been existing for so long that they're kind of set in stone by this point. This means that they're almost impossible to change. Finally, being politically correct isn't what he's after. The main concern, of course, is how easily the role's content can be modified. Can we shift our expectations? Can we invent new roles? Can we completely get rid of them? Some things are just innately present among all of us, and this is Peterson's reasoning for believing that the great global religions and religious scriptures contain deep truths that we have yet to understand properly. Certain stories have have resonance. They appeal to us on a deep genetic level, which is why they have proven successful and have been replicated over time. We don't know what it is in these stories that makes them resonate so strongly, but we can still learn a lot about ourselves by studying them. And this is how, when Peterson talks about gender roles and norms, he wants to take us back to look at how things naturally occur and exist. But we're not surprised that many people consider it flawed logic or just plainly backward. And that's a wrap, folks. Do you guys agree with Peterson's views? Tell us in the comments below. And as always, make sure to click that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more updates on your favorite social topics. See you in the next video.